I was given a pile of papers. It was honestly a stack this big of papers, and this was kind of, I was like, oh, well, they're giving us the full year's work, and the lecturer said, no, that's just for the first term.
Local chefs, whether it doesn't matter where you're from in the world, as long as you've got that sort of community that you look up to, I think is really important.
Absolutely.
So I really like that one.
Absolutely. And I think it's like you said, they might not be doing what I'm doing. There was a beef Wellington in the oven.
My God.
And I just grabbed the tray.
With no cloth?
With nothing.
With nothing?
Because I was talking and I was so arrogant and I was trying to say to him, don't worry about it. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to sort it out. And I grab the Wellington out of the tray, out of the thing. And I turn around and I close the oven, not realizing it's blistering my fingers.
Welcome back to the Chef JKP Podcast. And on the show today, we have the head chef and managing partner of One Life Cafe, or Kitchen and Cafe, rather, Kelvin Kelly. Kelvin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, James. Honestly, a pleasure to be here. I've always loved the show, and I was just waiting for my turn, and finally it's here. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
So, as you know, straight off the bat,
Yeah.
I want to know your earliest or favorite childhood food memory.
Honestly, like I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts on here, and I knew that question was coming, so I kind of had a day to prepare, and I couldn't quite pin the exact food memory that kind of changed what direction I wanted to go in. But I would say my grandfather, there's a sausage in South Africa called boerewors.
Mm-hmm.
And
Beautiful as well. They're amazing. So many flavors.
And just fatty and juicy. And as it comes off the braai, we call it a braai, and you put that between a hot dog bun and just some fried onions on top. And man, it's sensational. It is absolutely sensational. So that was probably one of the memories that my grandfather kind of, with food at least, gave me. Yeah.
And how old were you when you sort of remember that, do you reckon?
That was as early as, I would say, 8 or 9. 8 or 9, yeah, that was quite early.
So that was the predominant thing. So with the family, having a braai.
Yeah.
Was it with different celebrations, or would it just be whenever they had time to be with you?
A South African never needs an excuse to have a braai. It can be snowing outside, and you'll see a South African braaiing over the thing. But no, we didn't have a specific occasion for it. We just enjoyed a boerewors roll every now and again, and his favorite thing to do was a beer, a braai, and a boerewors roll. So that was his pleasures, which then kind of he brought me into that and gave it my pleasure as well. So yeah, but in terms of family, we would I guess everything was different. We had I remember my great grandmother. I had the privilege of knowing both great grandparents on both sides, and my great grandmother used to make it's basically in English, it translates to milk food.
Mm-hmm.
But in Afrikaans, it's called melkkos.
So what is that exactly?
It's basically just a ton of milk, and you take some flour. Well, it's got flour, sugar, butter, and cinnamon sugar. And you take the flour in a bowl, and you add the butter and sugar to it, and you frimmel it. It's called frimmel, and make like little balls with your hands. Get the pot of milk going, bring it right up to the boil, bring it down to a simmer, and then add that in. And that cooks for about 20 minutes. Just
constantly stirring it?
Constantly stirring it.
Sort of like a bechamel roux?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's exactly that. it's exactly that, but the quantity of flour to butter is not the same as a roux. So it's like a dry, like you would make scones.
Right.
So it's that consistency, and then you bang that in the pot with the milk, and you just let that cook, and you add some sugar in it and some cinnamon.
Sounds very sort of home comfort.
Yeah, it's very hearty comfort food. And then on Sundays we'd have a family roast. So yeah, that's your beef.
And what would that consist of then? Beef, lamb, chicken, or?
It was different. A little bit of. I didn't enjoy pork at the time, so there was pork, but there was always beef because I enjoyed the beef. And then you would have some garden peas on it, some cauliflower gratin, roast potatoes, and a gravy, and some rice. There was always rice on the plate for some reason.
So look, one thing we have to discuss to clear the air. What's the difference for everyone to know between a braai and a barbecue? Because you've got Australians, Brits, South Africans, Kiwis. What is the difference between a braai and a barbecue?
There is a technical difference, but any South African you ask, will always tell you that the braai is where it all started. But I would say the technical difference is probably barbecue tend to use charcoal. Braai is more of a wood. We use wood.
Right. Okay.
So that's a technical difference, but there's no such thing as a barbecue. It's always been a braai.
It's always been a braai.
It's always been a braai.
There you go, ladies and gents. It's always been a braai. Okay, just to clear the air. So look, then obviously you had this incredible family time.
Yeah.
And then I want to understand from your early kitchen life, what got you into professional cookery? Were you always sort of into the kitchen, or did you have a different path before you stepped into the kitchen?
This is an interesting story. I never saw myself in the kitchen. I never saw myself in the hospitality industry at all. I had a weird, if I can call it that, journey to getting to where I am. I actually wanted to be a doctor. Or I knew I wanted to help people. Now I'm helping them in a different way. So I wanted to be a doctor. And I walked into my first science lesson. At the time in school, you had to kind of pick out which subjects you were going to take for what you would kind of go into. And I walked into science, and I was given a pile of papers. It was honestly a stack this big of papers, and this was kind of, I was like, oh, well, they're giving us the full year's work. And the lecturer said, no, that's just for the first term. It's the first 3 months. I was like, thanks so much. It was been a pleasure meeting you. And I walked out the door. And I dropped biology straight after that as well. And I was like, okay.
And how old were you when that happened?
16.
16?
Yeah, I was 16.
So that hit you in the face straight away?
Honestly, I'm not a big reader. I'll read if I have to. More of a visual kind of guy. But yeah, when I saw that stack of notes, I was like, all right, game change, game plan change. And so I then just started, this is where it gets funny. I started working for my uncle. And this was just like a part-time thing during weekends, holidays, school holidays. And I was a private investigator. So my...
and how old are you here?
I was 16, 17.
So your uncle was also a private investigator?
Yeah, he was he owned a company that would bring on private investigators.
Right. And he brought you on as an apprentice?
Yeah, as an apprentice. And obviously when you family to the guy who owns the place, you kind of get thrown in the deep end. And, well, here we go now. I'm not going to walk you along. You just got to sink or swim. And my job was basically proving infidelity in relationships.
Oh, mama.
So I would be literally following people with a camera.
It's quite dangerous, no, at that age?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I didn't have a license. That's breaking the law, I know. But Yeah, that's what I used to do. That's how I bought my first car, actually. I was a private investigator watching.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
So you must have seen some sights, let's say.
Yeah, let's put it that way. Some sites. Yeah, and I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do while I was doing that. Like, I knew that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. I did want to be
And how long were you doing that for?
for about a year and a half.
Okay.
So I think my final year of school.
So you're also at school as well?
Yeah, I was still at school. So this was just weekends and holidays. Really.
Well, yeah. What's your weekend job?
Well,
I can't really talk about it, but it's pretty cool.
So yeah, it was honestly the things you see kind of shocks you of what people can be like.
And this was in South Africa.
Yeah, this was in South Africa. So I then knew I didn't want to do that. I was chatting with friends and I knew I wanted to do something where I'm serving people, where I'm helping people in some way. And a friend of mine at the time, he said, I'm going to a culinary school. I was like, well, that's weird. Never heard you speak about that. And it's like, why don't you sign up? If you don't like it, like, you can drop it. And so I did. I went to culinary school. And just the love relationship started from there.
But what an incredible change.
Yeah, absolutely.
To go from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm assuming here that you'd never stepped in a kitchen before the culinary school.
Absolutely nothing.
So you were super fresh.
Yeah,
you never picked up a proper knife, anything like that.
Nothing. And at the time, I think a lot of the chefs that were really big at the time didn't really go to culinary school. They had just gone through the ranks in the kitchen, and that. So I thought I needed to do this to get the basics and learn. And I kind of was impatient to go through that and be a scholar or whatever it might be, and then build myself up from there. And I thought, could be a cool challenge, and we'll see. And if I don't like it, I'll stop it.
So how long was that program?
That was a 2.5-year diploma.
Right.
Yeah.
And was it just cooking, or did you have to go front of house, bar work, all of that kind of stuff?
It was just cooking. So it was a full-on culinary school. It wasn't a hotel school. So they focused only on the culinary aspects. There was 6 months of it where it gave you insight to business management, but majority of it was just culinary cookery.
Wow. So then, after you graduated,
yeah.
So 2.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
you fell in love with the kitchen, fell in love with the whole camaraderie of being in the kitchen. So then what happens? Where do you land your first job?
So we got to backtrack to, I think, my second week in culinary school. Driving on the freeway, get off the freeway, parked at a traffic light, waiting for the light to go green, and this car pulls up next to me, and it knocks on the window, like he signals to knock on the window, and I open the window and see what's going on. Like, did I do something wrong? Is this guy about to flip me off? And he's like, "Are you a chef?" And I said, "Yeah." My chef white was hanging in the window in the back, and he's like, "I'm looking for chefs. Here's my card." And he flicked his card into the window. And I was like, "That's crazy." Drove to school, called him right away, and he's like, "I have a catering company called, I think it was called Creative Food Concepts. Come on, bring in your whites. Let's see what you got, and maybe we can offer you a job." So why not?
So random.
So random. Just being in the right place at the right time, kind of. So my friend that actually got me into it, we used to carpool together, and we both went. And yeah, he dropped out in about 2 days after peeling and deveining thousands of kilos of prawns. And yeah, I wasn't a fan of prawns after that. It took me a long time to get
I can imagine.
get through consumer prawn after that. So yeah, did that while I was finishing school in the morning, going there in the afternoon, doing some work, all weekends working for them, doing events, running things for them. And then I graduated, and he offered me a permanent job with him. And yeah, was there for about a year after that. permanent. And I was just tired, like the long hours, stressful kitchen. We were doing huge banquet offerings.
So when you say huge for numbers, what would you say?
You're looking at about 700 to 2,000.
Wow. So this would be weddings or just functions generally?
Just corporate events, functions, weddings. Just anything that was big, festivals.
And how big was that brigade at the time?
At the time, it was probably about 20, 21. I was.
So it's not a lot.
Yeah, it's
considering
not a lot.
the numbers.
Yeah, not a lot.
So you were pushing.
Yeah, it was extremely long hours, 17, 18 hours sometimes.
Right.
I would drive to an event and do the event, park the car outside, have a quick doze before I drive home, get home next at 4 a.m. the next morning in the kitchen, busting it out. Event. It was extremely tough. Extremely tough.
So what made you, apart from the beautiful long hours, when did you see yourself moving from that particular job?
I felt like the menus were pretty set. We didn't really deviate from that. We did slightly when there was requests for certain things, but it was just because to deal with those volumes, the menu had to be kind of set and it was standard. So it was very a lot of repetition, and I didn't feel like I was really growing as much as I could have been somewhere else. And I kind of gave my resignation and then stuck around for a few more months after that, looking for the right thing, because I just didn't want to enter into another kitchen where it's the same thing. And I was chatting to someone, and at the time there was a corporate catering company called TS Africa, and they were changing the way corporates ate lunch.
Okay, so
sense,
explain that.
So in the sense, like, you know what a canteen is?
Yes.
And when you think of a canteen, you picture those stainless steel tables with the chairs benched to it, fixed to it, and it's just like a huge counter where someone comes around with a tray and you slap something in.
A bit like prison.
Yeah. So
not that I've been there, but you know.
I mean, I wouldn't judge if you. But they were changing that whole thing, and they were offering an experience for corporates in a way that no one else was doing.
So what was that experience?
So there was live cooking right in front in the actual canteens. So it was like you were walking into a food hall.
Ah, right. Okay.
So it was.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah. So it was establishing food halls within companies, huge companies, and then catering to those people that work there every day.
Okay.
Obviously, the company subsidizes the pricing and that type of thing. But and depending on which companies you were placed at, you had unlimited budget, really, because the client would just pay for it. In South Africa, staff well-being is regarded really high. Or at least it was 10 years, 15 years ago. So that was a big shift for me, because these guys were looking for young and talented chefs, and they were grabbing some of the best chefs in the country at the time. For this, and I was like, this is a great thing. The menus on set, they change because you're dealing with the same people over and over again.
Right.
Those menus are rotating constantly.
Okay.
So there's always new things coming up, and you kind of didn't have a menu to go. You made the menu the week before, kind of thing. So it was whatever was available, whatever seasonal fruits or vegetables that you could get your hands on, whatever meats you had, whether it was a special, whether it was whatever it was, you kind of was limitless in what you could do.
So what was the position they gave you in the end when you first joined that company?
I started as a CDP.
Okay.
And the chef at the time, I was at I don't know if we're allowed to mention companies, KPMG.
Mm-hmm.
So I was based there, and the executive chef at the time was Jamie Sutherland, Scottish guy. Phenomenal chef, probably my first mentor in the game. And he taught me, and he was extremely well-traveled and worked all over the world. And he kind of took me under his wing, and I then went into head chef after, I'd say, a year of being there.
From CDP.
From CDP, yeah.
It's a
From
big jump,
CDP.
mate.
Yeah,
It's a big
absolutely. Feeding about 300 people a day.
Whoa.
Because it's subsidized by the company. No one goes anywhere else. Like, it's great. It's great food. You have endless options.
That was breakfast and lunch or just lunch?
That was breakfast and lunch.
Right.
Yeah, breakfast and lunch. And obviously when they have
5 days a week?
5 days a week. So living kind of the dream.
So weekends
already.
off.
Yeah, weekends
Lovely.
off, public holidays off. So, and that's one of the factors I decided to do that. Not only just the menu changing and learning new different things, but kind of getting some time to feel like a human again.
Yes.
So yeah, did that. And I was then approached by its kind of, what's the word? Competition? Competition, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Competition company. And they brought me in and gave me an executive chef role. And that was fun because now everything was up to me. I decided what went out. And I think I did that for about 2 years. No, it wasn't 2 years. It was about a year.
So that, I mean, it's quite a meteoric progression. Going from CDP, then you did a year, straight to head chef. Fair enough. Then you did a year, and then another company comes in and says,
we're
going to give you exec chef.
Yeah. Honestly, I was blown away, and I really think that I was in the right place at the right time. I had the right people that were surrounding me and pushing me.
And how old were you at that time when you got the exec chef position?
I was 24.
Wow.
24.
So the thing I'm particularly interested in is at 24, it's super young to be exec chef. Did you have the mental skills to handle the man management or the HR?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Because that must have been quite a steep learning curve for you.
Honestly, you look at it and you're like, executive chef, title, great, amazing. But when you get into the crux of things, it's not just about cooking. There's so much more that comes with that, which you kind of aren't prepared for.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that
managing people.
You have to know to manage people. Then there's the finance side of it. So food cost as an exec chef is a huge one. Yeah. Then the general manager dealing with upset clients. Then the shareholders. I mean, it must have been a lot on your shoulders.
A huge amount of pressure. And I'm not sure how you were at 24, but you think you're a hothead. You are a hothead, or at least I was. Executive chef title.
And that's a 24. Corporate environment, right?
That's a corporate environment.
Where corporates are not used to dealing with chefs, psychopaths, and knives. so you almost have to be, how can I put it? But you know what I'm saying, right?
Exactly.
So how did you find that?
Honestly, it was extremely difficult, and I did lean a lot on the ops manager at the time. We became good friends, and he kind of helped me through all of that, navigating all of that staffing and thing. And I mean, doing the menus and stuff, I don't think, obviously, I still don't know everything now. But I kind of I knew what I was doing and what I wanted to do. So I didn't really need help with that, but it was everything else. And honestly, without him, I think I would have fallen flat on my face.
Wow.
So, and that's why I said, like, I've always been kind of in the right place at the right time with the right people around me.
Because you must have needed a lot of support at that time. I mean, not physically, but I mean, obviously mentally, with all of that load and learning as you're going, because nobody really teaches you how to be an exec chef.
No.
You know?
And
so
I did that.
Full on.
That was full on. And I did that for a year, I think. And within the same company, a position had opened for the corporate chef. So I was looking after, as an executive chef, just one kitchen.
With how many people?
We had 17.
Okay.
So 17. And it was the most at the time in the company, in any one kitchen. Just the stuff we were doing was kind of blowing everything else out of the water. So, and we were focusing on making things from scratch and not just buying it in, which requires more staff.
equipment.
and all of that. So
Yeah.
I was an isolated case. They kind of saw some potential in me, I presume. And it kind of let me do what I wanted to do. And then a position opened up for the corporate chef for the company. So going from 1 to looking after 80 kitchens.
So I'm assuming you got the job as a corporate chef.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I did.
So again, another monster leap.
Absolutely, yeah.
Going from 17 to 80.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of people to look after.
Thankfully, each kitchen had their own head chef and obviously brigades, and each one had their own GMs. I was just looking after quality of food.
Did you also have to look after the hiring and firing of people as the corporate chef?
It depended on the title or the position they were holding. Anyone from sous chef to head chef, yeah, that kind of came down to me. But anything below that was just reporting to the direct supervisor or HR.
Did you have to fire any of the sous chefs or head chefs during that time?
I did that for 3 years. So yeah, there was a bit, which is a tough.
Because again, nobody prepares you
No.
for firing somebody, especially the first time, and especially if they're older than you.
That's the thing. A lot of the people were older than me, and I felt really self-conscious about that.
You must have had a lot of imposter syndrome as well.
Honestly, I live with imposter syndrome every day. But exactly that. I tried to hide my age because I felt that anyone would not respect me for being in the position I'm in, being at the age I'm in, where they are in their 30s,
Right.
40s,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them even older.
Right.
So I then took on the role to kind of equip the chefs that we were bringing into, because the company was growing at a pace where we couldn't bring in skilled chefs as fast as we were growing. We opened up a training kitchen. So anyone that would come in to the business would go through that training process and we had a syllabus, if you can call it that, that they would go through. I think it was about a month, so it wasn't an intense thing. It was just to give them the skills to operate in the kitchens. So then I was heading that, and as that grew, we kind of brought more trainers on. And again, looking at the best establishments in the country and taking chefs from that.
And where were you
Executive
based
chefs.
in South Africa specifically?
Johannesburg. Yeah.
Okay.
Johannesburg. I would say the main office of the company was in Cape Town. So towards the end of my tenure there, I was traveling a lot to Cape Town and looking after some of those as well. But I was mainly looking after Joburg, Johannesburg.
Okay.
So yeah, and it was like cattle, man. We were just pushing guys through those courses just to get them equipped into the kitchens, which was fun, but challenging a lot, and not much cooking went on in that.
It must have been a lot of training, a lot of admin for you.
Yeah.
Courses,
Yeah.
mymanagement, all the fun stuff that
Board
all
meetings
the
and all of
chefs
those
love.
things. Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to ask you is, look, I recently, myself and my wife, we just came back from South Africa, and it was my first time there.
Yeah.
And one thing that was very apparent to me.
Which part of South Africa did you go to?
So we went to Franschhoek.
Okay, Cape Town. Yeah, beautiful.
So beautiful. I mean, it was incredible, to be honest. But beforehand, talking to South Africans over the past 20 years, they have this kind of huge, immense pride.
Yeah.
About where they're from, about the produce, about the service, about the wine, about everything. I couldn't get my head around it, and I didn't understand why until I arrived there.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind. Now, I wanted to ask you, where does this pride come from? Is it from, because just going back to your childhood, is it given to you from an early age, or is it that the food that you have in your backyard generally is just beautiful and incredible? Because when you come to a place like Dubai, or when I was working in Oman or in London or wherever it may be, that sense of pride with the South Africans specifically was always there.
Honestly, I don't know where it comes from. I think you're born with it. Being South African, to a South African, really does mean something. And yeah, our produce is incredible. The produce that South Africa produces is just, it's really up there with the rest of the world. I don't know where it comes from, but every South African you do speak to will tell you how proud they are of being South African, and how proud they are of the cuisine, and it's not a widely known cuisine.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not. But I went to some really
I saw you
incredible
in
restaurants.
Column.
Yes,
Yeah.
Petit Colombe and another one called Faber, and it was, I mean, beautiful restaurants, and it was all about the land. Everything was about the land, and I have to say it was some of the best meals
Yeah.
I've ever eaten when it came to a fine dining standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, the wine again, phenomenal, all biodynamic again from the land,
Yeah.
and it's literally faultless.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what was really nice, it wasn't just about the food. The hospitality and the level of service was also some of the best in the world I've ever received.
Yeah.
You know, so I was just like, and then when we came back, it was just amazing. You know, to the point that we want to go back.
Yeah.
You know, so but it is justified. I think the pride thing is really, really justified.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's nice to hear as a South African, just because when you live there, you kind of don't see it because you're so used to it.
Right.
It's nice. I mean, I've been out of there for almost 10 years, and I still go back, and I'd move back tomorrow if circumstances were different. But it's nice to hear someone say that.
So then, when did you move, or when did you decide to come over to the Middle East and cook professionally?
That was about 10 years ago. Myself and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, were kind of looking for a change. It just felt like it was Groundhog Day. Everything was happening at the same pace, and I don't like a boring life. I like challenges. I like to be challenged. I like to see different things. And Dubai wasn't on our radar. Middle East wasn't on the radar at all. It was probably somewhere in Europe. And the two of us went out and was like, all right, let's just apply for some jobs and see where it takes us. And she got an offer from a company in Dubai. And she said, well, this is what I've got back. And I hadn't gotten anything back. So I was took a blow to my ego there a little bit. And she said, should we do it? Like, let's explore it. Let's do it. She's like, I have to leave in 3 days if this is the case. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, let's do it. Let's see where we go. And so 3 days later, she was on a plane and came out. I had to resign from my current post and served my notice. And then I came back, and she arrived here on the 3rd of January. I came on the 29th of Jan.
So that's a big
10 years.
safety net that you let go of.
Absolutely. Everything. We had a home, we had cars, we had everything. And we kind of had to pack all that away. And
it's a big leap of faith, huh?
honestly, huge. If you asked me to do that now, today, probably wouldn't do it. Not because of the experience I have, just because I don't know if I have that
Sure.
faith to do it again. So yeah, it was Dubai. And honestly, we haven't looked back. It's been absolutely incredible. It's an incredible city for any chef that's trying to make a name for himself. Being here in a melting pot of multi cuisines was just incredible. So
then you landed your first job in Ginza?
yeah, so Ginza was a group that had a couple of different restaurants at the time. There was a Serafina, Sukabaha. They had a few pizzerias around. They had Jean Georges on Four Seasons when it opened. They had Real Madrid Cafe in
JBR.
JBR, yeah. And so when I was brought on, that was kind of not doing too well. So they asked me to sort that out for them.
As the sort of corporate chef, I'm assuming.
No, as a head chef.
As head chef. Right,
As a
okay.
head chef. Yeah, I thought coming to Dubai, I would kind of need to take a step back to kind of learn how things work here.
Sure.
Being 26 at the time was, I was still young, trying to figure it out and willing to take a step back to learn. So yeah, I did that, and we kind of got Real Madrid into a position where it was doing really, really well. And I enjoyed that. And when there was chefs moving around vacation or whatever, I would then just go and slot in where they were or what kitchen they were in and just assist there if needed.
Okay. So then you did that for a while. You found Dubai.
8 months, actually, only.
So how did this venture, One Life, come about?
That's I had lost my job with Ginza. Being a hot-headed chef that I was, I made a decision, and I belittled someone that was in my brigade that was lower than me, or in a lower position than me. And obviously the company at the time did not really see eye to eye on that.
So I'm assuming they went to the HR route?
Yep.
Reported you?
Yep.
You had to have the chat?
I had to have the chat.
Which is always nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a a really, really painful experience.
What did you learn from that?
I learned that I wasn't as hot as I thought I was. That one mistake, one choice, one decision can set you on a path that you might not want to go down. And I look back at it now, and I'm kind of glad I made the decision, because I am where I am, and I don't regret it at all. I love One Life, and I eat, breathe, and sleep it. So it wouldn't. I'm glad it happened the way it did.
Because also, the one thing that they don't prepare you when you come from a place like South Africa, the UK, Australia, wherever, the Western countries, is that you have so many nationalities and religions to contend with at the same time.
Yeah.
You're in a kitchen, you can't behave a certain way there than you used to, or how your previous chefs used to back then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like South Africa is a multicultural country, and we named it the Rainbow Nation. So you do get, but they are South African. They just might be Greek South African or Portuguese South African or Indian South African, but they are South African. So there is an understanding that goes with in the kitchen. Like,
right,
these things happen.
Sure.
When you move to somewhere like the Middle East where those things are not accepted, you kind of learn that
very quickly
and the hard way. So yeah, that was it. And I left that job and sitting at home, beating myself up about how I could let this happen, how I've just ruined my career, applying for jobs, reaching out to chefs that I had known, going for interviews and doing some trials. And I did get favorable responses and a few job offers. I just didn't feel like that was where I wanted to be. I was, given what I went through, I should have just taken anything. But I'm glad I didn't. I was very selective of what I wanted to do, and I wanted to have freedom to cook what I wanted to cook, to do what I wanted to do. So I was at home applying for jobs. I applied for this job, closed the laptop. Oh, I didn't even close the laptop. Got up, went to the fridge to get something to drink, came back, sat down to apply for another job, and my phone rang. And it was Najib on the other end of the call, who's my partner in One Life. And he called me up and he was like, "Did you just apply for the job?" And honestly, I thought someone was having me on because I was like, how is that possible? Like, literally 45 seconds. Yeah, literally 45 seconds after I submitted the application. And he's like, "Are you free today to meet?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Let's meet." And we met in Sports City, Natalie's Cafe. That was the excuse me. So we met there, and Najib wasn't from the industry. He was in marketing most of. He's a mechanical engineer. We studied that, but he was in marketing for the longest time. So it was a new venture for him as well, and I was I was blown away by his passion for the industry, his passion for food. I was like, this is the kind of guy I want to partner with to build his dream, because it was his dream. One Life was his dream, and I was just incredibly blown away by his passion for food, for using quality ingredients, for his idea of what food should be. So yeah,
it's quite lucky also, because you don't get that many people
absolutely
who want to open a business,
absolutely,
and they don't focus on the passion or the quality. They focus more on the return on investment.
Exactly.
Yeah, they see the financial goal rather than the quality. So that must have been quite refreshing for you.
Absolutely, and I was taken back by that, and that's probably, leaving that meeting, I felt really good about myself after beating myself up for 2 or 3 months, because I don't want to say I saw, or it kind of reminded me of my passion for the industry, sitting across him and letting him talk about his passion for the food. And I didn't think I was going to take, he didn't offer me the job at the time or in that interview, but I didn't think I was going to take it, to be honest.
So what happened, and how did it all come to fruition?
Well, at the time I had 3 offers on the table from different properties, and I didn't want to go backwards, and not that One Life was going backwards. It was something new. I wanted to get something that was already established.
Right. Okay.
And
so One Life was already
no.
There was nothing. It was just a concept at the time on paper.
He had a
right?
business plan. He had locked down the location in D3, and I think at the time there was construction going on in the space, and we went our separate ways. And a day or 2 days later, he emailed me or he called me. I can't remember the exact details of it, and said, "Let's meet again." And he kind of asked me, sitting opposite me, "What happened in your last role?" And at that point, I was like, I either tell the truth and basically just see what happens, or I try and spin it in a way that kind of is ambiguous.
Right.
And at that point, I was just like, I got nothing to hide. This is what happened. And it's like, okay, cool. Glad you're honest with me. I knew afterwards he had already known the truth by someone he had known who had told him. And for me, that was me being able to be open with him, and him saying, "Okay, cool. It's a
huge trust, right?"
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take this forward and see where we go with it. So he showed me the menu he had put together, and I had some ideas, and he was like, "Yeah, we can see." And he said, "Come out to the kitchen, the construction site at the time, and let's see what you think." And so we looked at the plans. Kitchen wasn't built. The structure, the walls were built, but in terms of the kitchen layout, that wasn't decided. So I kind of planned that out for him. I was like, "You can use this whether you hire me or don't hire me, but I'm happy to join if you willing to have me. And that was just because of his generosity, really, of accepting me for my flaws, kind of. I was like, yeah, he's a nice guy that I want to kind of build his dream with.
Wow.
And yeah, we opened in March 2016.
And I haven't looked back.
No, haven't looked back.
So,
Haven't looked back.
so for those people who are listening or watching, and they don't necessarily, or they have never been to One Life,
Yeah.
what is the concept, food-wise, first of all?
So the concepts evolved over time, and I don't want to bore you too much with that, but we started on a very limited menu. The kitchen was extremely tight. We had about, I think, 65 seats at the time. So our menu was 7 salads, nutritionally dense salads, 7 slow cooked stews,
Right.
an add-on of steak to the salad, or add-on of chicken to the salad, and 2 desserts that were no sugar added, no artificial sugars.
So quite health conscious, would you
very,
say?
yeah, health conscious,
Or healthy, clean?
clean rather. Not healthy. We don't use the word healthy at all, because it isn't healthy. We say clean because it is, you know, where your food's coming from, and everything is made from scratch. So we know what we're putting into the dish before it gets to the consumer. So it's clean. It's clean food. So we did that, and we thought, cool. We've locked down the recipes. We've locked down everything, and we opened. And I think it was a month in, and the customer said to us, "So when are you doing the next menu change?" Not realizing, or maybe realizing, but not wanting to listen to yourself here, that we got to change it. But it's brand new, and people are already bored because you're dealing with the same people.
Right.
So it's in Dubai Design District, obviously.
Which is like an incredible design hub.
Yeah.
Almost sort of central downtown, beautiful little location.
Yeah.
And you have some of the biggest companies in the Middle East.
Yeah, biggest companies in architecture, biggest companies in fashion, anything to do with design, really. So yeah, they were like, "When's the menu changing?" I was like, "Oh."
So what did you do?
Oh goodness. Let's change the menu quickly. And
Within a month,
yeah.
6 weeks, whatever.
Yeah, and we slowly started introducing different items. Like we never had any bread on the menu. Sandwiches were not there. So it was like you're either having a stew or a salad. That's kind of what you had.
So then,
and so I wouldn't say the exact pivot, but we just started adding a few items here and there and seeing what we could do with the space we had in the kitchen. And it just gained momentum really, really quickly. Obviously, myself and Najib were there every single day, building it, getting to know the consumer, getting feedback from them. And yeah, that's where it started. And so we focus on clean food. As far as possible, we produce in-house from scratch. And I always joke with people, we even make our own ketchup from scratch. So I always say like that's probably the most inconsistent item on our menu, just because you're dealing with fresh ingredients. Like a tomato,
and
could
it's
come,
seasonal. Yeah.
A tomato could come and it's beautiful and sweet and nice and red, and in a week's time it's not.
Right.
Your apples could be juicy and green and sweet, and then in a week's time they're sour.
Wow.
So it's a huge challenge to do those types of things, but we believe that that's where the difference comes in.
So the thing I wanted to ask you is, it's a well-known brand within Dubai. You've won numerous accolades, and congratulations, because really I know how hard you work. I know how hard the team works. You have a second location in JVC in Dubai, which is also booming and super busy. Now, now you're not just a chef.
No.
You're a managing partner of the business.
Yeah.
So it's a different type of thinking.
Absolutely.
What's been the biggest sort of challenges you've faced so far as an owner, let's say?
Knowing when to bite my tongue.
So there's still the Kelvin hothead is still
yeah,
around.
I mean, I don't know if it'll ever die. I think it's knowing when your opinion's gonna help, or if it's just gonna delay a decision.
Are you still very passionate in the kitchen, would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, the food in one life it's never been I've never taken it on and said, oh, this is my cuisine, this is me. It's always been a collaborative effort. It's always been a collaborative decision. Okay, this is what we want to do, this is where we want to go.
Right.
And not just with myself and Najib, but the rest of the staff, whether it's front of house, back of house, as well as customers. We have 3 dishes on our menu that I didn't create, but a customer created.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so we have weird names, but names of the dishes. But yeah, we it's a collaborative thing. We are a community space that focuses on quality. And that quality doesn't stop with the food, but it continues into the service. It continues into anything we kind of put our minds to do, whether it's an event, whether it's our coffee. We roast our own coffee in-house.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we
Wow.
roast our own coffee. Our brand is called Machete.
Nice.
You can follow that on Instagram. But yeah, so it's always been collaborative. We find value in heads getting together. It's not just one head, but it's a few heads getting together and saying, okay, well, this is what we want to do. These are the things. Yes, the food kind of I still produce those recipes. I still put them together. I still do all of those things. But in terms of what we want to do on dishes, that's always been collaborative from day one.
Wow.
And I think that's
Fantastic for the team as well.
yeah, absolutely. And I was just saying to Najib just the other day, like we had a few resignations. Obviously, at the moment,
It happens
the
in the industry.
industry's hot and there's a lot of openings and chefs leave.
Yeah.
And it hurts. It does hurt.
Of course, because you put a lot into them.
a lot into them. And he said that we're a school, and I never looked at it like that. And we are to some degree. We had people that had come in. Sammy, he's our head chef in our JVC location. I met him at 18 years old. He was 4 days out of Pakistan in Dubai, and I needed a scholar. It's like I got a position open in the stewarding. You want to take that? And he did that, and he's built himself up. Yeah, we've all helped and done, but he's done that. He's taken that decision himself to be a head chef, and he's running the kitchen in one of our locations. So it is a school in that sense. And yes, people leaving hurts, but it's at the same time it's a weird feeling because it's kind of rewarding for someone to come in that knows nothing, that you've given them the skills and they've taken the decision to take those skills on and better themselves is an incredible feeling.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that nobody really teaches you as a chef.
Yeah.
You are a mentor because all these things that somebody taught you, you teach them, so on and so forth, so it's almost giving back to the industry.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wanted to sort of ask you and touch upon is when it comes to your mental health, you have a lot of pressure from the business, making sure that that's afloat from the team, lots of external influences, whether it's media, whether you're doing weird podcasts, whether there's lots of different things. Now, of course, as within the Middle East, we have Go Malo, Michelin Guide, 50 Best, all of this, so many influences that are not under your control. Has there ever been a time where you've just been like, okay, I need to have some Kelvin time in order to make sure that things run properly? Because that's one thing as a chef or as an owner, especially at that level, that nobody really talks about.
Yeah. To be honest, no. There isn't time to have Kelvin time. And I don't. It's extremely important, and I do believe in it. But I do struggle with that. Whether I'm in one of the locations or at home, I'm still thinking about the location. I'm still thinking about the business. I'm still thinking about what can we do to make it better? How can we make it even 1% better than it was yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something you can just switch off.
True.
So it's extremely difficult to take a step back and really take me time, because that would mean if I'm saying yes to me, I'm saying no to someone else.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. I think there will be a time where I can, and I will. But right now, I think we're on a mission. We do want to be up there with the greats, and we're on a mission to do that. Whatever that might look like. So no.
Okay. But I suppose the other thing would be, let's say, when you do manage to have some time off, I think
time off,
let's say with the family or whatever that might be, that potentially could be the sort of break, let's say, not the switch off, but, but definitely time required for you to sort of sit back a little bit. Let's say.
Maybe I misunderstood the question, but yeah, I have a beautiful family, 2 daughters, my wife. So that is my
release.
My release. Yeah, that's my sanctuary, if I can call it that.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what kind of day I've had. When I walk into my front door and my daughters run to me and give me the biggest love ever, that kind of pushes all the worries away, and I'm focused on that moment. So yeah, that's my sanctuary. So I'm able to do what I do because of them, and having them being there for me, whether it's my wife encouraging me and supporting me and doing bath nights a lot without me, and kind of supporting me in everything I do. Really,
but I think also
helps.
what family does, especially for chefs within hospitality, and maybe also other sort of leaders, is that family can allow you to not just support you, but that it sort of pushes you to do better.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's not only with your immediate family, with your wife and your kids, but that's extended family as well, and having friends that are pillars in your life, that can speak into your life, that can really call you out on your bullshit when you do have that.
Which is important, by the way.
Absolutely. And people take that for granted, and they underestimate the importance of it. I think it's an extremely, at least I've seen for my life.
Yeah, but you need that to keep you grounded.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because it is easy. It's easy to live with your heads in the clouds because it's just human nature.
But that's good. If you have people that can do that, and
absolutely.
you appreciate them telling you the truth.
Yeah.
Whether you want to hear it or not.
Yeah. And it hurts sometimes. It might hurt, but you got to know that it's coming from a loving place.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So then, look, regarding the plans for One Life, I want to ask. I know you have 2 locations, and I know you're pushing hard. Is there anywhere else that you're potentially looking to go, as in internationally?
I mean, yes, there is always that in the back of both our minds, but it would require, and maybe this is where I have a bit of a problem to release and let go and kind of say, okay, you handle this now. I've always been a very hands-on and in the operation and in the crux of it.
In the thick of it?
Yeah, in the thick of it. Like every single day at lunch, I'm still at the bars.
Right.
So even though there's other business to be done, I'm still at the bars at lunch. I'm still watching every single dish go out. And Najib is at the cashier and he's engaging with people and meeting people and talking with people. So we're still in the business. So we are at a point where expansion is kind of kicking down the door, and we do want to, and we have our eye on a site within Dubai, and but it's one life. But if you visit our JVC branch, it's a different experience.
Yeah.
It's a completely different vibe to D3, and the menu is slightly different. So that's what the third one would probably look like as well, where it's one life, and it's still the essence of one life, and it is the food ethos behind it, but it's different, offering a different experience. So yeah, we have our eyes on the third one.
Interesting. Okay, we'll look out for that in the future.
Yeah, hopefully the near future.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So now you're aware, I'm going to go to the quick fire questions.
Yeah.
All right. First one. Top 3 culinary heroes.
This is probably one of the questions I didn't prepare for. I would, someone I followed and really admire in the industry is Daniel Hum from 11 Madison Park.
Legend.
Absolute legend. Like, the way that guy sees a raw ingredient and is able to translate that onto a plate is just phenomenal. The way he takes risks, going from an establishment or a restaurant that has earned its accolades,
The highest possible accolades as well.
the highest possible accolades, and then to turn it into a vegan restaurant, like
That's huge.
that's huge. Like,
And still charge the same.
and still charge the same for vegetables. So that blows my mind that he was able to do that and succeed, because he's succeeding. He's blowing it out of the water.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
changed how
Absolutely.
people see
Everything.
everything. Yeah, in terms of things. So he's
okay.
definitely one. And I think why I liked him, he was during COVID and all the rest of that. Like, he's always kind of looked at ways to reach people,
Yes.
regardless of whether his restaurant was closed, but he was partnering with different organizations to reach them in their homes. And I kind of, you can see why he's in it.
Yeah.
He's not in it for the fame. He's in it because he loves what he does.
Okay.
So
Number
yeah, this
2.
is him. Then I would say he's probably not as famous as I would like to. Or maybe he's not famous at all. Maybe he is, I don't know. But it's me in 5 years. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, Curtis Stone.
Yeah.
Aussie chef, currently in the US right now. Also, again, looking at focusing on seasonal ingredients, so seasonal foods. And like, he's done, I'm not sure if he's doing it now at the moment, but at Mode,
Yes.
he's, forgive my French, he picked a vegetable a month. And that was the star on every plate that went out
Beautiful, eh?
the kitchen. And it was just like, he found ways to reuse that, call it a potato, in so many different ways. And he made that the hero of every single plate that went out for that 1 month.
Amazing.
Like, just incredible mind when it comes to using the quality and
Yeah.
the produce that's around
Love
him.
that.
And that's what I think. I love him, but I admire him for that, because that's kind of the ethos we have at One Life. Like, we look at partnering with local produce farms and people that are doing something different in the market, that are locally. We don't have to go out, or we don't have to go very far to find those things.
Wow.
And the third, I wouldn't give it to one individual. I think just the chefs in this city, Dubai. I don't think I have one particular chef that I favor, but I've been a part of the DCC chefs collective, and just all of them are a real inspiration. All of them are doing completely different things, but I'm able to really take something from each one of them. So there are a handful of them there, and I take inspiration from a lot of them. So it's not just one.
That's really interesting also, because I agree. I think that you can take inspiration from so many chefs, and
Absolutely.
they can be doing completely different things that you would normally not dream of or think of.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really big thing. At the same time, local chefs, whether it doesn't matter where you're from in the world, as long as you've got that sort of community that you look up to, I think is really important.
Absolutely.
So I really like that one.
Absolutely. And I think it's like you said, they might not be doing what I'm doing. They might be in a fine dining restaurant, and obviously we aren't a fine dining restaurant. Doesn't mean I can't take inspiration from them, because there's still passion that drives that thing, and creativity is creativity.
Yeah,
doesn't matter whether it's in a fine dining restaurant or a fast food outlet, whether it's whatever it might be.
So then, talking about creativity, what would you say is the one meal that changed your life?
Oh, I have no idea. That changed my life.
That one, or the best meal or restaurant experience you've ever had?
Wow, that's a difficult one. Changed my life. There was a restaurant in South Africa called the Tasting Kitchen.
Yes.
You know it?
Yes.
Yeah. And dining there changed my life. Things that those guys were doing was just mind-blowing. Like turning something that's 90% water into a carpaccio is insane. Like dehydrating, then rehydrating, then dehydrating again. Like it's just, yeah, I think that they had a watermelon carpaccio on the menu, where it was just like you could see right through it, but it felt like when you were eating it, it just melted into your mouth like you were drinking a watermelon juice or something. So that I would say that kind of changed my life.
Love that.
Yeah.
And that is an iconic place. Really iconic place.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible.
So then, from all of your experiences in the kitchen, whether this happened to yourself or somebody else, what's the funniest ever kitchen incident that you've seen or been involved in?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I think...
Apart from you screaming at someone and then getting let go.
A little bit more than screaming. But we'll just leave it there. I find things that are serious funny. And I tend to, when I'm nervous, I tend to make light of a situation. So at the time, these things weren't funny. But I would say, looking back now, they're pretty darn hilarious. It was our first cook-off at college, at culinary school.
Yep.
And
way back when,
and obviously 18, think you're a hothead, and arrogant as they come off the ship, so but doing the cook-off and all the rest of it, and the lecturer at the time was really going at me, and I can't even remember what it was about, but he was going at me, and I just was like, I'm gonna get it done. I think he was going at me because he saw that I wasn't gonna be able to put a dish out.
Okay.
I think. I think it was something along those lines, and I was like, I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna get it. It's me, kind of thing. And I opened the oven, and there was a beef Wellington in the oven.
My God!
And I just grabbed the tray
With no cloth?
Nothing.
With nothing?
Because I was talking and I was so arrogant and I was trying to say to him, don't worry about it. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to sort it out. And I grab the Wellington out of the tray, out of the thing, and I turn around and I close the oven, not realizing it's blistering my fingers and not realizing. And he grabs a cloth that was on the bench in front of me, and he grabs he hits the tray out of my hand. And as he hits the tray, this Wellington goes flying. It was almost happening like it was in slow motion.
Oh my God.
It actually landed on the student next to me's table. And I just looked down and it was just red. It was red. And like, knowing this now, there was a 20 kilogram of butter on the counter.
Right.
Soft butter. And I don't know why, but I just needed to release the pain, and I just went and stuck my hand right into the butter.
Beautiful.
And I kind of just stood there, and I think I might have shed it to you. I think I might have shed it to you.
Okay, pretty good. I have to say that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's probably
butter, eh?
Butter.
Wow, love it.
Butter. But yeah, I've had some really funny ones.
I like that one though. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
To say. So then, to top it off, what advice would you give to 16-year-old Kelvin Kelly?
Wow. I don't tend to give advice, especially about this topic, just because it really comes across as negative and don't do it kind of thing. But obviously, I love what I do. I would tell myself at 16 is slow down. It's not a race. Your time will come. You don't have to really take corporate chef roles, executive chef roles at such a young age. Although I don't regret it. But slow down, take it all in, enjoy it, and make way more mistakes. Yeah.
So then, I love that because people need to understand that making mistakes are a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only way to learn, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mistakes are not stumbling blocks. They steps to finding something
to help you on your way.
Yeah.
So then, now you've been in the chefing industry and the hospitality industry for some time.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to young chefs who are up and coming? And I'm talking 16 to 20 years old who are just coming out of college.
I think it would kind of be the same advice I would give myself at 16. Because what's the good of advice if I'm not going to take it myself?
Because everybody seems to be racing, right?
Yeah, it's
and they're not willing to put in the hard work.
Yeah, it is hard work. And maybe that's why the negative side comes out when I try and give anyone advice trying to come into the industry. It does require a lot of hard work, but there is satisfaction. There is so be prepared for the long hours, be prepared for the hard work, and take it all in as much as you can. Work with as many chefs as you possibly can, and yeah, don't take any chef or any recipe for granted.
Love that. So then, Kelvin, if people wanted to get hold of you or the restaurant on social media, how can they do that?
My personal Instagram page is Chef Kelvin Kelly, and then One Life, you could follow either One Life D3 or One Life JVC. We have two separate accounts for locations.
So I'll put that in the show notes. So then, Kelvin, look, all that's left for me to say is we have gone through a huge amount
Yeah.
a lot. So I really want to say thank you so much for being so candid. Really, it's been absolutely phenomenal to have you on the show.
Thank you,
I
James.
wish you all the very best of luck with the 2 locations and the potential new location
Thank you. Thank
in
you.
the future. And just wanted to say thank you very, very much for being on the show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate being here. Thank you for your time, and look forward to hearing everything that comes out from this.
Thank you.
Ciao.